passingly about a man named Shakespeare. I only read about him passingly, but I remember it kind of moved me. He put it in the mouth of Hamlet, I think it was, who said, "To be or not to be." He was in doubt about something. Whether it was nobler in the mind of man to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, moderation, or to take up arms against the sea of troubles and by opposing, end them. And I go for that. If you take up arms, you'll end it. But if you sit around and wait for the one who's in power to make up his mind that he should end it, you'll be waiting a long time. And in my opinion, the young generation of whites, blacks, browns, whatever else there is, you're living at a time of extremism, a time of revolution, a time when there's got to be a change. People in power have misused it, and now there has to be a change, and a better world has to be built, and the only way it's going to be built is with extreme methods. And I, for one, will join in with anyone, don't care what color you are, as long as you want to change this miserable condition that exists on this earth. Thank you.
Who taught you to hate the color of your skin? Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? So much so that you don't want to be around each other. No, before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate, you should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God gave you?
Most of us blacks, or Negroes as he called us, really thought we were free without being aware that in our subconscious, all those chains we thought had been struck off were still there. And there were many ways where what really motivated us was our desire to be loved by the white man. Malcolm meant to lance that sense of inferiority. He knew it would be painful. He knew that people could kill you because of it, but he dared to take that risk.
He was saying something over and above that of any other leader of that day, while the other leaders were begging for entry into the house of their oppressor. He was telling you to build your own house.
The Gilchrist Experience. I have a special treat for us today. Two of my best brothers, Professor, Doctor, well, Professor, Elder, Metaphysician, Reverend Dr. Phillip Valentine, and a good brother, Minister Kevin Muhammed, head of the Mosque number 7, Nation of Islam.
Peace be unto you.
I mean, everybody said, no, you're having these two on together? And so the guys on 125th Street are dubbing this tape as we speak, because they figure, what's going to happen? You know, I'm a Christian, Dr. Valentine, you're a Muslim, and Dr. Valentine, I think, claims them all, because he was once a Catholic. I know he's dealt in. He's a comparative religious doctor of all religions.
We claim them all as well, so you're the only one left out by yourself.
Well, listen, I'm listening to you guys, so I know if you guys are, I'm following your lead, because you have the following, and you have the teachings under your belt. I mean, I'm merely a television host trying to get information out to the public. And it's surprising how many people come back to me and say, you're doing a good job. You're thanking my brother for passing out the information. So now, what I want to start with was this shooting that we just heard about, the police officer not being indicted, and seems like I ran the Amadou Diallo piece last week at Reverend Sharp 89, where the mother and the father were standing a week after the shooting, and everybody's heart went out to the spiritual brother. He had a prayer rug in his knapsack and a computer. He was studying computer science, and a good Muslim, prayed 5 times a day at least. And this seems like a lot of us were touched by that. But here's another situation where a youth is shot down for, what, accidental? There's no accidental murder on the law books, really. I mean, if you kill somebody, something should happen to you. There's no accident. How could a police accidentally kill somebody? What are your thoughts on that? Whoever would like to speak first?
Well, I'll say this, my dear brothers. You can't expect anything less than what came. Right. This is why I said that Friday morning at the funeral to the mayor, the people are fed up. They're very tired of white officers representing a blue wall instead of a true one.
Right.
Always being let and set free. After accidentally killing, but yet killing the same, a black or Latino, not even youth or child, but person, whether it is a male, a female, elderly, defenseless, young, virile, and non-criminal. So now the grand jury should have come back with some form of indictment to make him pay some penalty. Now he gets off paying nothing. Timothy Stansbury Jr. is accidentally dead, but dead the same. And a grandmother has lost a grandson, a father, his son, a mother, her son, and a community, a native son. So now what is the black community to do? To listen to the PBA president? This just happens that way? There is no one benefits in this? Oh, I'm sorry. The police officer will benefit with his freedom. His wife and family will benefit with having him back home. But the Stansbury family will benefit with nothing paid for him having a pathology of psychology and having a fear for the shadow of the young black youth, that he couldn't prevent himself from pulling that trigger. You may not have waken up in the morning time, but something happened in the wee hours of the morning between opening that door that he couldn't hold his trigger finger without killing that young boy. Something has to happen. And so God now is going to move in his own way. But I expected this from the grand jury.
You expected
because
that.
That's what the grand jury is set up for, to let people off in this kind of way. That's the white man's grand jury. It ain't the grand jury to bring justice for blacks and Latinos and Native Americans or poor whites. They ain't the grand jury for them.
Did you think after the police commissioner spoke up, well, you saw what happened with the union stepping in and digging up 20,000 signatures against the police commissioner. But I thought that something would happen, since the mayor and the police commissioner seemed to want to seek some kind of justice for this.
You're watching the scenario, an old one, called Good Cop, Bad Cop.
Right.
Still a cop.
Right.
So we don't have any media celebrities that are stepping forward to take this ball. Everybody's into presidential races and things now. So these are
Charles Barron.
Well, again, we are dealing with
a revolutionary.
We're dealing with we're dealing with a certain echelon. Like I said, no change is going to come from the top down. It's going to come from the bottom up. And no politician, no leader, no one moves until the people are ready to move. And it seems that the people are not ready to move. If anything happened in another community like that, we would have fielded at least 50,000 people already. There's nobody in the streets. There's nobody saying anything. There's nobody at that level bringing that attention. They say the squeaky wheel gets the oil. Well, until we are down there shouting like a squeaky wheel.
There should have been nobody been able to, traffic should have been moving. Nothing's supposed to have been done today. Nothing. After that particular grand jury handed that up, Do you think that any other community would have allowed that to happen? Business is going as usual? No. Again, there is no resolve, there is no determination. We have been put into a stupor. We are still right now dealing with the last effects of the beating from Amadou Diallo. Nobody has come up as yet. We're referring back to it, not understanding that there is a continual war on our youth going on. And I know the brothers from the nation are one of the people that are standing out there. They are the ones that are out front.
Well, this is.
But we can't just have those brothers being the only ones.
Well, this is a time that I think we all need to stick together. You know, Christian, Jew, Gentile, whatever. You know,
Well, I'll say this, Winston. I am for, if Dr. Valentine or yourself is the lead wire in a particular situation, I'm with you
Okay.
as the cause is just.
Okay.
But I would expect the lead wire to say, I need not only a black wire, but I need a red. I'm not talking color of people now, but I need the red wire that represents something in the black community. I need the green wire. I need a white wire. I need other wires hooked up with me so that the charge is the strongest one that it could be. Oftentimes when we step out front, we don't hook up other wires with us. And so Councilman Barron called me, not today, but he called me a week ago when they were having a press conference. And these are the kind of things that are going to be needed, because I made, I think, the greatest charge that Friday. It was written up by the journalists, and I'm not saying it to be in front of anyone, but on that day, the way we had the audience moved, if I had asked them to come and deal with the mayor and the commissioner or the politicians who were up there, they would have done that. They were very surprised to see how we were able to move and touch the crowd who knew us and those who met us for the very first time. Well, I'm at that moment's notice now. But since others have stepped out, I am with them. But we must be very careful that together we do this. Then we can bring about the sizable effect that is needed. And if we've asked for something on the federal level, then we expect the federal government to step in. This is in the Muslim program. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said to us, we believe that he said that we believe the federal government should. We didn't say that they would. We knew that they could. But we said that they should step in to end immediate attacks and police brutality on our people. But it didn't mean that they would do so. But it means we should make a petition. You know why? Because when the people erupt, there are a powder keg. No mayor or commissioner or governor of the state can then blame the people for standing up the way that they should.
Isn't that what they want us to do?
Is that what?
Isn't that what they want us to do?
Well, brother, no, they don't expect that we will do it. They will expect what Dr. Valentine said, that we're not ready.
That's right.
That they keep us desensitized. God is in control today, brother.
Okay. All right. So what's the answer? Reparations, which we came here to talk about, basically.
Well, the greatest thing that we need to repair is ourselves, but in the process, so many others need to be repaired.
Okay.
So the minister said, who will repair the black man? Who will repair the white man? And what will it take to repair humanity? But we got to be repaired first and foremost. And when we recognize that only God working in us, through us, for the benefit of us and everyone else can repair us, then that's the first start. Then now we must put in check the other parts of the human family that are out of order. There are police officers who are out of order. Then we must come back to our community because we too have been out of order. And as we move down, then we begin to repair. And now we begin to take back some of the things that are ours. But giving way for my brother and his statements as well, I just end on that point. But we begin at that, my brother. And as we will let everyone know about Savior's Day and everything toward the end of the program, we will do that. But we must begin repair with self. But this problem that exists right now, oh no, brother, we're going to have to take it and cause our people to come together in such a way that we bring about the resolution. Officer Neary cannot just be gotten off scot-free. And once again, as I said that Friday, he must atone with the family. I don't care that the grand jury let him off. He killed their son. Accidental or not, you have an opportunity now to put into play what Minister Farrakhan lifted from the platform of the Million Man March in 1995 before 1.8 million black men and before the world. Atonement, reconciliation, and accepting his responsibility in the loss of that child's life. And if he doesn't do it, God is not going to let him rest while he lives, and surely not when he dies.
Well, you see what we went through with Amadou Diallo. And what, 5 years later they gave him $3 million?
No, they're not going to rest either, brother.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, again, we're dealing with a system that the people must become a lot more sophisticated in their knowledge of the system that we operate in. And the problem with it is that this system at the grassroots level, I'm not talking about the grassroots level, I'm talking about in the political system, in the so-called criminals justice system, there is a grassroots operating agenda in that particular circle of influence. And it has nothing to do with law. It has nothing to do with justice. It has to do with commerce. No case is closed. There is no positive law on the books. This is a bankrupt nation who operates solely on statutes, codes, and regulations. And until you have positive law brought back, then there is no justice. And what we will get is delayed justice, or we will get paid off. How do you put a price on a child's life? What is $3 million today when it takes, for $1, it takes at least, by the next 4 to 5, maybe even less years, a banana is going to cost like $4, one banana. So what they're doing is essentially, with a bankrupt system, you get bankrupt justice. And what you're going to get in this case, again, and if the people become more sophisticated and more understanding of what's going on, they will understand, and understand that in a system such as we're in, a bankrupt system called the United States, which is a corporation, once you live inside of a corporation and not on your nation, on your land, and inside of yourself, in your own personal self, you will not get justice because we are slave, we are chattel, and the court sees us as chattel. And we are not only chattel by attrition, we have positively put our signatures down, carried in our pockets, we carried on our identification, we have handed over ourselves by paper to them, and until we remove ourselves from that system, no form of justice will happen.
Well, we all agree that the only way out of this is spirituality and, you know, the prayers to God. So it's not a weak point to say pray and God is in charge, because the demons that are in charge of all this, it's a time for it to end, isn't it?
Well, we see the demons.
But it's time for it to end. Armageddon is on us, isn't it? Revelation is real.
400 and something out years, brother. We've been living in Armageddon.
That's right, sir.
We've been in Armageddon, brother. There's no time frame for Armageddon, especially for peoples of color here in this country. We've been in Armageddon. They're writing their story and pretending it's theirs. It's ours. So there's nothing that we have not yet faced. We are being given, just like they said, the brother said, that there's something that's going to happen. There's a resolution. There's a time when someone has to face up and take responsibility. But the only way we're going to be able to take responsibility for ourselves is to teach our children, to let our children understand that the system that they're being taught in schools to recognize as being the system is not the system. It's not the true system. Oh, I'm sorry. The system that we're presently under will not give us any justice because we have handed over what we would have handed over to them, which is our soul, in the form of our handwriting, in the form of our signature. We've handed them our life to do with as they will, and we are under contract to them. So being under contract, the courts being a court of contract, will not move unless that contract is broken.
And the contract being?
Your social security number, your driver's license, your birth certificate. Until you get your birth certificate, which is an instrument of commerce that you gave over, your mother gave over to them to file, until you get that back and get back your straw man, which is the man they're moving against, which is why you're 3/5 of a man, until you get that back from them and get into the system of commerce and get out of and stop being a slave and someone who is a debtor. You go into court as a debtor. You cannot get anything as a debtor because a debtor is a slave until you change your category from debtor to creditor. And until you are a creditor, you are not going to be treated with any respect in their courts.
Well, we as African Americans or as black people here in America, with some sort of unity, you know, like minds, not same religions, or just like minds, spiritual like minds. This is one reason why I have the both of you here today. Because it seems to all these differences which people perceive you to be is really I find you very similar to both of you, having known the both of you.
Gradations of
so
reality.
I thought it was appropriate for the two of you to be together. You know, especially that we share the same, you know, virile. I mean, you're both vibrant and real and alive and real brothers. You know, one of the few that I know that are real and speak the truth. So,
well, Winston, we have to be led by the curve. We
Okay.
can't follow it.
Nope.
We'll
Right.
be led by others. So I really don't feed into any ignorance or continued blatant ignominy in our own community
Okay.
where we feel we are separate and divided.
Mhm.
We're not going to live by the Willie Lynch syndrome or the divide and conquer syndrome.
Amen.
We are
Amen.
united by the basis of our suffering. We're
right.
united by the basis of how God produced us and made us
Amen.
in our own pigmentation and that which have produced the other people that are on the planet. We're united on all of these bases. The common denominator is that we're seen as same in every condition. So we're united. It doesn't make a difference what station we are. So we don't feed into that people say. That's really ignorant in 2004. And those that do that remain where they are, and they are of no effect.
That's right.
But those of us that know, in order to get the people out of the sea of despair, like the boy in the sea of despair, we must tie our ropes together and pull together at the same time.
So no matter what your brother looks like, it's time to eliminate the Tom calling and the rest of the stuff. So any way we can incorporate the politicians that are seen to be...
Brother, I'm not here to incorporate not a politician that's here in America. All right, those that I support leaders who are about the business of politics.
Okay.
Politics is no panacea to any of our ills.
Okay.
But it can be a necessary tool if used appropriately and forced to do what it should do. It can be employed to do its job for us. But it is not politicians that we need today. It is the politicians that have the country messed up in an upheaval that exists today, right now. And the salaciousness of former President Clinton beneath the table pales in comparison to the deception of President Bush being pushed over the table. And I give you a small example. Look at what they just did to Kerry.
Yeah.
Before he went into Wisconsin, they threw this thing on him with a female and a woman. This is only the tip of the iceberg of what the Republicans and President Bush is willing to do to rob and to steal and to deceive the American people for another 4 years. But I say what Minister Farrakhan says. This man, President W. Bush, George W. Bush, is born to lead this country to her destruction.
So you think he's going to... There's no stopping the re-election of
Well,
King Bush?
Well, King Bush, you have to take him back. He goes back to to Edwin Plantagenet.
Edwin
Plantagenet goes back to 12. He is more
Okay.
royalty than his father.
Okay.
That's why the same relationship that I think it was either Chamberlain had with one of our presidents is the same that Bush has with Blair. This is historical.
Ah, okay.
And what it is that Blair is actually following his leader, which is essentially a member of the royal family. Bush, both the father and the son, both have joint bank accounts with the Queen of England.
And they're Illuminatis.
Well, yeah, from the Coates Bank they have a joint bank account with the
Okay.
Queen of England, who actually signs your Social Security check. So there are things that we in this country have no clear understanding of, that there is a incestuous relationship.
Run that by me again. I mean,
Okay.
for
No,
my
he said-
public out
I
there.
think the people already heard it.
He heard it.
They just had to run the tape back. that's
Whoa,
all.
ask the people, who do we owe?
That's
To
right.
join my brother. Who do we owe $3 trillion to?
All right.
Who's owed $3 trillion?
That's right.
It ain't the U.S. Treasury Department.
Sure ain't.
Which bank is on that? And who's the people who sit at the top of the bank?
That's right.
Every bank got a board.
That's
and
right.
who are the people? They ain't blacks.
Nope.
They ain't Latinos. They ain't Native Americans. And they ain't the poor whites from the Midwest. So who do we owe it to? The minister's going to talk about that.
Okay.
This Savior's Day. He dealt with it in 1995. He dealt with the international bankers of this world in this society that my brother knows about. But
Okay.
here this year at Savior's Day, he's going to level the playing field. Reparations. What does America and Europe owe? Why do they owe it? And when? What is it that they have to pay up? But what does Allah God promise? What does he promise to us? And what does he promise to do for them? And we say to whites who say that they're a part of it, or whites who are not a part of it, this is your last chance to repair the wrong, to save yourself. Because if you don't, the way God is moving, he's going to make you pay up anyway. It ain't going to be no good. You pay the Japanese, but you ain't going to take care of the black man and woman. And I ain't talking about money. We're talking about land. We're talking about assets. We're talking about land that's minerally rich. You're talking about us being able to go for self. We're talking about in a country where they tell you there's 100 contracts out there. We'll give you 30% as a minority when we're the majority. But for the sake of calling us minority, they give you 30% of the contracts. So you get 30 out of 100. But the contracts are worth $10 million. So if they give you 30 contracts out of 100, you only may make $500,000 or $1 million. That's nothing. Give us 30% of the money. Then we can go for
How about controlling the homeland, Africa?
Well, just to speak on that, if you want to bring that in my contention, the present, I guess the present direction that I'm not sure, because I'm yet to hear on the Savior's Day what the Honorable Minister Farrakhan is going to say, but I will say that the present direction being taken by people who are at the head of the reparations movement, it's a failure. Why is it going to fail? Because essentially, you cannot take African Americans into court and ask for reparations. The problem is that the venue is wrong. Okay. And you'll see that the last ruling of the court was that they found it frivolous. But they dismissed it without prejudice, which means they can actually come back again. What the judge actually did was show them that they had to come from another venue. And the venue is this. The venue cannot be that slaves ask for their reparations. A slave cannot ask master to give him any money, because as a slave, the master tells the slave what to do. But if a slave is to go into a venue, it cannot go into a court of commercial law. This is an international crime. So the court has to be an international court. And the people here on the United States proper can actually initiate the actual reparations argument. But it is our people in Africa that must bring the case before the World Court. It cannot be brought here. The people from Africa were the ones robbed. The people from Africa, our ancestors who sit in Africa, were the ones who were robbed. Those are the ones that must bring it before the Court of The Hague, and the name of the court that they must bring it before is the Dragon Court of The Hague. That is the highest court on the planet, the Dragon Court of The Hague. Now, the problem is...
Where is that?
Well, I don't want to get too deeply into that, because that takes on something else. I'm just giving you names so that you can go and investigate for yourself.
Okay.
The venue is wrong. We cannot get lawyers to represent us, because the lawyers belong. If you're a part of the bar, you belong to the Lawyers Guild of Great Britain. The Lawyers Guild of Great Britain is in the Templar Courts. The Templar Courts belong to the City of London, which is an enclave in England that's not part of England. It's like D.C. They run our legal system. So any lawyer here is working for the Templar Courts. If you take a lawyer to represent you in there, your issue is 6th on his list. First, it's to the court. Next, it's to the judge. Then it's to his opposing lawyer. Then it's to the political correctness. Then it's to him, and then it's to you. You're 6th in his line of importance before the court. You going in the present venue to bring before justice, to get justice from anyone for something that his ancestors did, and you cannot prove, you have to come with information that says that I own this land. Do you know that in 1997, this whole continent went fee simple, which means that anyone who can perfect the superior claim to the land can take it? But is anyone telling our people out there to perfect the claim to this land? No. We have to first educate or to teach the people what it is that is missing from the equation. And the equation is the present status of African American, black, Negro ain't going to get them the land. Because only people who have a nation that can prove that their nation was violated. There's no African American nation. Until we go back to Africa and link up with our people, which is what they're doing now, to change our people's minds over there, so that they don't take up with the reparations, or to separate us to say that that ain't us. No. The only people that can actually bring this case is for us to link back up with the brothers and sisters on that West African coast and to go back into their archives and to prove it before the Court of The Hague.
This is why, to back up what my brother just said, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had on Muhammad Speaks, the brother from America reaching across the globe to the brother in Africa. And I will say to my dear brother Dr. Valentine, yourself, and to the listening audience, that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, among us today, serving us, representing us, but serving us, is that free black man on this side of the aisle. Farrakhan. The Muhammad named him Farrakhan. A few may have carried it out of marriage and others may have taken it, but there's only one Farrakhan. And the messenger didn't even fully tell him what the name meant, but we are coming to understand what it means. And he will cause us to take sides and discrimination. And when he stood up in 2001 Savior's Day at Friendship Baptist Church, he said what you said, Dr. Valentine. He first started off how we are still a slave to this society, a slave with our name, a slave with our Social Security card. But we now must free ourselves totally of the names of our slave masters and the movement that we can move anywhere in this country, anytime, no matter what's happening, if we so choose. So our minister will stand up for our people on this side, connecting with the people from the other side of the Atlantic to make the case. But what Dr. Valentine has said from a legality point of view is right on point. And that will be a part of what the minister will talk about. But I'm saying here to us, Minister Farrakhan is that free black leader in America that no one can tell anything to and can stand up and make their case for us right here in America. No one else has that unique ability to do so.
Amen. So the answer for reparation is?
Well, first understand, understand, and overstand who you are.
Okay.
Go back to the legacies. Study the Yamakra nation, the Yamasi nation. Study before the time the man, the so-called Caucasoid man came. In fact, you will begin to find the problem with reparations is that you begin to understand that once, if the other side finds that we're making any headway on the reparational movements here, then all those ancestors of white slaves are going to start coming in now. Because essentially the part we have to understand, again, we talk about white indentured servants, that there is a history from Europe that goes back, way back, before the time when the whites became prominent here. And this is before the defeat of the Moors.
Okay.
That the Moors were here. We have a civilization of melanated peoples that go back 50,000 years. They're unearthing them every day.
The Moors were here.
We were here. Matter of fact, that the Cristoforo Colombo, you know, the patron saint of genocide, the Christopher Columbus, we call him. He was, when he got lost, and a Moor named Pina was the one who navigated him. They were waving at Moorish ships who were leaving the ports from where they were about to land.
Is that right?
They were crisscrossing Moorish ships on the Atlantic Passage, going right to the place where they landed. So what happened is we have to understand what is wrong with the so-called history that we are learning, and what are we basing our argument for reparations on? We cannot base it on the argument of history, because the history that we know was given to us during what is known as the Reconstruction. With the Reconstruction came the reconstruction of reality. And reconstruction of reality showed a completely different history from what was going on here in America. And until we recapture that information will not, the information we are presently taken into the court to get justice with, will be laughed out of the court each time. And that we have to watch the people who keep feeding us information about our history, and we have to make sure we double check, triple check, quadruple check that all the information, because remember, when you go to court, it's your line, your dots the I's, cross the T's, everything must be set. But until the people of this continent, the melanated people of this continent, reclaim the nation that was here first and say that is the nation that you took illegally by force first on this land, then there's nothing moving on this land, because the only persons they're going to recognize were the ancestors who were here first. You understand? The original peoples here on the land first. And they're not just the natives that we see with the long hair, the ones that have the Asian energy. No, there were people, brothers that looked like you and me. Okay. You see, because as you began to see the pictures, you could even go back to the earlier pictures when the white man was making pictures. The earlier the pictures of the Native Americans, the darker they were.
Right.
And only when they started taking their food supply, putting all the poisons into their foods, stressing them out on the reservations, that they started getting lighter and lighter and started looking like me.
That's right.
So
I know Amherst giving them blankets of smallpox.
Blankets, all of the wickedness that went on. But we have to first get back to who was here on this territory, and who was it that was actually taken, who was actually dealing with the slave trade, who was the ones that were actually getting their lands ripped off from them. And until we get back to who it was that our ancestors were speaking of, we will not go into court and be victorious. Because everybody else knows our history up there in Europe except us. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, that's you know, that's why you're here, my brother.
Go ahead, beloved.
No, it's always interesting to hear the truth, and that's what we need here. That's why the Gilchrist Experience exists. That's why I call it the Gilchrist Experience, because I always experience this new knowledge when I bring on intellects such as you two. You know, people that are really in this struggle. I constantly search for answers, you know, because I'm suddenly, I mean, I'm so into the system until I got this show that I just, everything still amazes me. And people don't have the spirituality and the love of humans that we see running around. I mean, it's kind of hard to believe that people are that vicious.
Oh, my brother, no, that's
I know.
not.
Well, I mean, I'm that naive sometimes to think that, you know, yeah. And then when you really know, and when you watch things like the shooting yesterday,
there are people, my dear brother.
I know that, but it's hard to accept.
The depth of
sometimes.
evil, there is no depth.
Yeah.
And I'm being very kind to the viewers.
Yeah, I know, but it's hard to believe that sometimes.
No,
but then when you see it,
you know, how can it be hard, bro?
Yeah.
We lost over 150 to 100 million in the Middle Passage. We came over as chattel slavery with locks and chains and our own feces and our own urine. Huh?
Yes.
How can we be hard to believe that? We have been gunned down and shot down. The Indian has been killed on the reservation, have been tricked and have been lied to.
Right.
Our women have been raped. How can it be hard to believe that, Winston? How can it be hard when mothers, listen now, Winston, in repairing the wrong under slavery.
But knowing the truth.
Mothers, no, Winston, mothers had to teach their daughters how to hold their body in such a way when the wicked white slave master, your fathers, who raped our fathers, and my mothers and my daughters, our fathers, she had to teach the daughter how to hold her body so that the white man wouldn't tear her flesh like the strong Thurman family and lied up until his death. And then an old Negro go and defend him. You wouldn't have done that for no black man. So black women have been raped by the white masters. And she had to be taught how to take her spirit out of her body. How do you do that? And you're there at the same time and come back after it's finished. Hell, he stayed there so damn long. You couldn't stay away that long.
That's right.
So how can we not know the depth of the evil? We've been hung on trees. Go get a book, Without Sanctuary, and read and look at that book. Go to the Blacks in Wax Museum in Baltimore, Maryland. And when I was in D.C. on Saturday, they have a building for the Jewish Holocaust, but there is no building yet, even though it's up. Why did it take so long to put together a slavery museum? And are you going to put that? Slavery, one of the worst Holocausts that have ever been done to anybody. That's what we got to teach our people. And that fervor and that spirit so that you hate what was done. So we can say, like Jews say, never again. But hell, it's still happening. It's happening under NYPD. It's happening under racial profiling on the New Jersey Turnpike. It's happening in the ghettos all throughout America. God is tired of this, brother. And after this message, this is going to be it, doctor. You ain't going to keep seeing in between 2004 and 2008, it's all going down. It ain't going to remain this way anymore.
No.
Time is up.
Yeah.
The mathematical time sequence is up, and the right.
This is public access, and obviously somebody's controlling from outside, you know, the power. And well, you know, when you say powerful things, you know, it upsets quite a few people. It's not an anger that we speak. As if it sounds so, it doesn't. It's not. But you know, because it's controlled anger. You know, a minister, you know, he's trying to make me aware of, you know, since I seem so docile about this all, and you're trying to make me more aware of what's happening. Well, it's hard. You know, hey, I'm just as angry.
We are passionate about truth.
You know, that's what I mean.
We are more passionate than the pilgrims and the dregs from England who came over here and pillaged and robbed everyone else and take the credit. See, we spoke earlier about Christopher Columbus. He was a marauder. He was a terrorist, man. But he's given the credit for discovering Indians, and that's not even the original name. So they focus on that so-called good, but forget all of the madness that he did to do so? No, come on now. You're passionate.
But you were on. You were on at the peak of your passion.
Yes.
The lights went out.
Well, I'll tell you, just the lights went out. If I may forward a conjecture, what happened is an electromagnetic pulse. The technology exists to isolate a specific broadcast, and if the satellite is above or triangulated in the proper place, you could send a surge that completely cancels out a broadcast or shuts down the actual machinery. And if you notice, we went back in the back, and all the machinery was shut down.
Right.
There are sophisticated weapons. They call EM weapons. And these EM weapons can easily isolate certain broadcasts and shut them down, or cause enough problems in the works to delay the ability of the messages getting out. And this is exactly what happened to you. It happened many times before. I've seen it happen at least 4 times before that.
So we talked about the Matrix 2, and how everything's being manipulated and controlled. And we're sitting here talking about these things being controlled, and zap, we were controlled.
Well, you know what? We should actually get back on the subject, because that's exactly what we want to do. That's part of the diversion, to get bogged down into, oh my God, what happened when the time burns? We're burning time right now that could be actually putting information out to the people to let them know what's really going on. The rest of that is superficial. We could get for another show if we want to talk about EM weapons, which is really what they're going to be using right now. The new kinds of weaponry that they're using and experimenting with over in Iraq, the ones that they did in Vietnam. This is all going to be par for the course as we go on into the millennium begins to drag on. The more and more we are going to become more and more like Nazi Germany, and you're going to see the connections to all of that, the taking away of our liberties. All of that is known. The Congress knows that. The people understand that. And we're seeing it happen. So this is just part of that. This is electronic censorship, I call it.
Well, I thank you, brothers, for coming today to make it such an explosive experience.
Well, let me get out first before they zap us again or send another magnetic pulse. We want to invite everyone out on Sunday, February the 29th, which we see as the crowning event of Black History Month, Savior's Day 2004. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan will speak live via satellite in all of the continents of the planet Earth. He will be speaking here in New York City in 4 to 5 venues. In Manhattan, between Mosque number 7 and the Oberi Dempsey Center, which is both on 127th Street between Malcolm X and Adam Clayton Powell Boulevards. And that will be at 12 noon. The doors will open, and the satellite will begin at 1 p.m. He will be speaking in Brooklyn, live via satellite, at the Friendship Baptist Church, 92 Herkimer Street, between between Nostrand and Bedford Avenues. And we will be bringing him down in Mount Vernon at the Nellie Thornton Elementary School, 121 South 6th Avenue at 2nd Street. And also in Westbury, Long Island, at the Westbury High School, 1 Post Avenue. We will be bringing down the satellite. You can call 212-865-1200 and express extension 3 for the Savior's Day information line. You can also call us in Manhattan at 917-507-3133. Also in Mount Vernon at 347-242-7924, and in Brooklyn at 718-789-8965, and in Long Island, if you have family, 516-565-5657. But I really implore all of us who not only love and appreciate Minister Farrakhan, but love and appreciate truth in your life, no matter what ideology or dynamic you come from, to come out to these venues on that day to receive marching instructions, guidance, direction, unparalleled truth as we move in on reparations. But also the minister wants to deal with what has happened with Janet Jackson, Michael Jackson, what has happened with Timothy Stansbury in New York City, in Cincinnati, around the country, and the countless number of our people that have been killed in Iraq. And we just say to everyone, we know that this war has been a farce and a lie. Everything that Minister Farrakhan informed President Bush, representing other people and other voices, have all come true. So you come out Sunday, February the 29th, Savior's Day 2004 at 1 p.m. 212-865-1200 for all of your information. Look for the brothers and sisters in the street as well with the tickets and information. If not, we'll see you at the door.
I'd just like to say this. You might add the Gilchrist Experience to that list now, you know, because this is no coincidence. And it seems that whenever you're trying to tell the truth, you know, these sort of things happen. Happened with Black United Fund and Kermit ED. It's Dr. McIntosh. It seems like every time we turn around, it's something where spiritual people are coming about trying to bring everybody to God, really. And we're not preaching, you know, anti-anything. We're trying to bring love to people. But there's no reason why we can't remember what's happened to us. You know, I do remember. I try to hide it from myself because it brings up such a you know, hostility in me that I don't want to think about it sometimes. And like we've been lied to and pacified over the years in our history. And the lies that we've been told are just enormous. And when you suddenly wake up and understand, really, like you passionately talked about, what actually happened to us, you know, it's amazing that we can walk around and stay sane. You know,
No one has calculated the psychological effects. Do you know how much we'd be owed for that?
Ooh, wow.
The mental excruciation that we suffer?
My God, what you just described, just thinking about it. You imagine a movie about the truth? I mean, you know, and happy day, Malcolm, matter of fact, Malcolm X. February the 19th is the right day. And as you see in our always beginning beginning and closing, we talk about our image of ourselves and how we feel about ourselves. And this is an experience trying to change your image of yourself. And you have to love yourself. And the God in me loves the God in you. That's everybody. No matter what color you are, you know, you can come to God.
So much so. Listen, thank you for having us on.
My pleasure.
Remember, no matter how bad the situation is out there, every day above ground is a blessed day.
Amen.
Another day to solve a problem, another day to receive a blessing. It's good to be on with my brother, Dr. Phil Valentine, and look for many more times.
Well, you coming back next week? We'll get back
Again,
next week.
the commercial.